And hi, everybody. Welcome back on in to the Big Sky Conference Studios. And this week's edition of the SkyCast, I'm John Oglesby. I'm Communications Director over football, women's basketball, and men's and women's golf.
I'm Jason Ashcraft, Communications Director for men's basketball, soccer, and softball.
Brad Wall, cross-country, volleyball, track, and tennis Communications Director.
And we are your media sources. Anyways, let's get straight into some of the big things that happened around Big Sky Conference this week. Another big week for the conference. Jason, will start out, as we always do every week, with women's soccer. What happened on the pitch?
Well, this week we've had a couple of teams playing really well. Eastern Washington, 3 straight wins. Chloe Williams, their forward, had a great offensive week, earned herself a Player of the Week nod for it. You look at some of the teams that Eastern Washington has beat: Idaho, Valpo, Green Bay. Idaho, of course, a conference team that they played in non-conference action. But these are all teams that they're beating that are comparable to a Big Sky team. Southern Utah, 4 straight wins. The T-Birds are rolling right now. And you got to, once again, look at some of the teams they beat this week. 2 wins this week, Houston Baptist and South Dakota. Another couple of teams that that are comparable to Big Sky teams. So this is the last weekend for non-conference. You got to like how these teams are playing as they get ready for conference season. And let's not forget our Defensive Player of the Week, Angela Haluska from Portland State. Shutout win, clean sheet.
Big performance for her.
Yeah, clean sheet against Air Force. Great job for Angela, and we're real happy with her performance. So, soccer, it's interesting to see what's going to happen, because 2 of the teams that were picked first, basically, Montana, Northern Arizona, 10 points for Montana, 9 points for NAU right now, kind of middle of the pack. Some of the teams that maybe were picked middle of the pack are right now playing the best soccer in the Big Sky.
What will be interesting to see as conference play gets underway, how it's all going to shake out. Do you think Southern Utah, and do you think that's the type of team that's built to be successful into the season?
Well, soccer is such an interesting game. At the collegiate level, it's not, obviously not the same as pros, but if you have one really good standout player in soccer, sometimes that doesn't really equate wins. You've got 10 other people out there. So if you can play a solid, possession-oriented soccer, not give up too many goals, I think any team in this conference could wind up being our champion at the end of the year.
No doubt about that. So that's what's going on the pitch. Brad, we'll turn to you. What's happening on the hardwood?
All right, so starting off with volleyball Player of the Week. Now Jason knows I struggled a little bit with it this week. I tell you, folks, it's one of the toughest parts of our job, picking the Player of the Week. There's always a lot of deserving ladies of it, but this week we went with Lauren Jacobson, Northern Arizona. Posted 3 double-doubles against Power 5 conference teams. They get a big win over Virginia Tech, a team that received votes in the ABCA poll. They lose in the championship at Indiana, and they also gave a decent fight to number 10 Arizona State. So not a bad weekend at all for Lauren there.
Not at all.
And then got to give a shout out to Sacramento State. They've won 10 straight games. They're 11-1. This is a team that went 8-23 last year. Really getting it done as of late. They take the Bulldog Showdown last weekend in Fresno, taking on 4 teams in there, and then they defeat UC Davis yesterday for their 11th win of the season. This is just the 4th time in school history that they're 11-1, so they're really on a. I don't know what's going on down in Sacramento.
Well, we talked about this a little bit before we taped the show. Just, you talk about the difficulty of picking players of the week, but how much fun it is to see programs get some success and kind of turn things around. It's really a cool part of our jobs.
Yeah, and you look at Sacramento State, it's always good to see teams eclipse last year's win total.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of times with teams, it might take the whole season to do that. Sacramento State, to come out of the gate right now
done
and eclipse last year's win total, I mean, that's a 200% improvement over last year.
Yeah. A program with that history, you like to see that out of them. And, there's a lot of other great performances. North Dakota, they host their UND Classic at home. Green Bay gives them a fight on Thursday, but then they sweep their next 3 opponents. They're on a roll as well. Chelsea Moser got the MVP honors at their tournament. Got to give a shout out to Madeline Cannon for SAC as well, MVP in that tournament. lot of great things going on around the Big Sky. Tressa Lyman had a solid week for Idaho State. They played number 6 USC, number 9 BYU. Had some tough opponents, and she still was putting up good numbers.
And Lyman put up 20 kills against BYU.
20 kills total against BYU and USC combined, I believe.
Yeah, that's going pretty good.
Those
You
are
know,
two
When
stout
you're
volleyball
going
powers.
And you're going up against some good middle blockers for those schools, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so it's time now to talk about golf. Men's golf, first player of the week for the week. Our first men's golfer of the week here is Weber State's Devon Purser. Purser finished very highly in the Gene Miranda Falcon Invite. Was leading after the first day, shot a 68 the first 2 days before he shot a 73, finished 7 under for the tournament. He's a guy you got to watch out for as we keep going into the Big Sky season, specifically in the spring as we get ready for our Big Sky championships. They're going to be at a new site down at Boulder Creek, and the competition is going to be fierce. The men's side is stacked, but the women's side especially in our Big Sky. Women's golfer of the week is North Dakota's Jenna Yanu. And Jenna, she shot, a very good round for her. She took 4th. So every year in the fall, they have a big women's golf tournament down at Hobble Creek, which is in Springville, Utah. Great golf course down there. You had teams, Pac-12 teams, Mountain West, Big Sky, WAC, pretty much every team, every conference on the western part of the United States, Division I conference, and she took 4th. The Weber State team there did very, very well. 6 or 7 Big Sky teams played down in that tournament. Weber State was the highest Big Sky finisher, but then right behind them was Northern Arizona. And then you also had Montana State that did well, North Dakota that did well. So I'm looking forward to what we got coming up this year in golf.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it earlier about how there doesn't really seem to be one player that's going to go just run roughshod over the women's golf competition this year. It seems a lot more even this year, which might make it a lot more interesting. And good on North Dakota for improving heading into this fall.
Absolutely, and I mean, again, Jenna, she's a freshman. So it's good to see that parity. It's good to see that early depth, and especially that young depth, as those are your Big Sky golfers of the week. We'll turn now to what's happening on the track.
Right, so cross country, a little bit of a quiet week. Only had 3 teams competing, but definitely some highlights. Southern Utah, the men go down to UC Riverside. At their invitational, they take the team title. Hayden Hawks, their top finisher, he was 2nd overall. Covers the 8K course in 23:53.8. You get those guys that normally run at elevation. You get them down at sea level, and they're feeling good. They can really put up some fast times. Southern Utah, they have 4 runners in the top 10. They take the team title over 23 teams there. And this was kind of cute to me personally, as my wife was a cross-country runner. I was a track athlete. Anyway, Ashley Hawks, Hayden Hawks' wife, she's also Southern Utah's top runner. She goes down to UC Riverside, takes 6th overall, 5th among NCAA competitors. Covers a 6K course in 20:44. Southern Utah women were 6th at the event. Kind of cool to have that family.
The husband and wife tandem there at Southern Utah is really helping them out.
Those the ties that bind.
And then Chloe Burliu for Sac State. 2nd straight meet, she was the top collegiate finisher. She was 2nd overall, got beat by a unattached runner, just over a 2nd. But Chloe Burliu, I know, Jason, you met her, you sat next to her on her plane actually one time, but one of those humble athletes, kind of puts her team first, really just the...
Yeah, I actually rode on our flight back from cross country last year. We were on the same plane as the Sacramento State cross country team, the flight back from Grand Forks, North Dakota. Chloe happened to be in the seat next to me, and we talked most of the flight to Denver. And, like you said, really humble, works hard in the classroom, just a real epitome of what a student athlete is.
Yeah.
So, we're proud of her. We're proud of all of our student athletes.
Oh, absolutely.
But for her to be in this conference, she's a great representative of Sacramento State, great representative of the Big Sky, and, good for her for having such a good fall. I think we have this, we don't usually give out a runner of the week when there's not more than 4 teams in competition. So that's why the runner of the week didn't come out this week. Had we had another team in competition, I think Chloe probably would have had a case for being the female runner of the week.
Yeah, she would have been up there, and her range is so great. She won the 1500 outdoors, and she's going to probably be a contender at the end of October in the Big Sky Championship. She was third last year, so.
Halloween in Cedar City. Make sure to get your popcorn ready for that Big Sky cross-country meet down there. All right, it was a big weekend in Big Sky football, as after such a great start to the season. I mean, week one was really unparalleled. This weekend, a little bit closer to the average, although quite a few Big Sky teams pick up some big wins. Some of the losses that happened, I did see some things that did encourage me. Eastern Washington fell 38-35 to Northern Iowa, but it was good to see that offense is able to score against everybody. Put up a lot of points against Oregon, put up a lot of points against Northern Iowa. Now the question for the Eagles is, can they stop people this week finally from scoring a lot? And that's in the business what we like to call a tease, as we announce our Root Sports Game of the Week, the first weekend that our good friends at Root Sports, the official television provider of the Big Sky Conference, they are in action this weekend as it's a non-conference game on Root Sports. Montana State at Eastern Washington this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. Non-conference game, but still a lot going on there. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up in the show. A few things that stuck out to me, though, this weekend. I was up in Pocatello to see Portland State's win over Idaho State. 34-14, the Vikings down the Bengals. The mantra for Portland State football, fellas, has been blue-collar, tough, fundamental football.
Barney Ball.
Barney Ball, baby.
Hashtag Barney Ball.
Yeah. That's not just a hashtag, and it's not just a saying that they put on their helmets. That's a real thing. Those guys are tough. They do focus on fundamentals and blue collar. I mean, I saw just the way guys acted pregame and postgame. All the guys on that team, they're not above doing anything, which as a coach is nice to see.
Well, they've come into the season with something to prove. They've come into the season to show that Portland State football is back on the map.
Mm-hmm.
To come into the Big Sky Conference season, open your season in Pocatello. Idaho State's a very good football team, not the easiest place to play on the road for a visiting team. To come in there and just play as well as they did, real credit to Portland State, and their special teams got the job done. Khalil Dawson, our player of the week. I mean, but overall, I was very impressed with how many points they were able to put on the board too.
Absolutely. Khalil Dawson is your Root Sports Special Teams Player of the Week. A 96-yard kickoff return, that's what helped Portland State. Idaho State had just scored. They got a 7-0 lead. Holt Arena's loud, boisterous, what have you. He comes back, goes the length of the field with the kickoff return. He pretty much had all of the energy in that building trailing behind him because he took it out with him. I mean, literally. I've never seen a building or a stadium change that quick. And the entire complexion of the game changed that quick. As Khalil Dawson, again, for Portland State, your Root Sports Special Teams Player of the Week. A couple other players I want to mention. Keaton Studsworth, the quarterback for North Dakota. He's your Root Sports Offensive Player of the Week. Throws 3 touchdowns in the first half of that win over Drake. We talked about it, though, last week, Jason. Drake, a Pioneer Football League team, but that's a good football team and a tough football team. They took North Dakota down to the wire. UND prevailed, so 21-18.
Drake is usually one of those top teams in the Pioneer Football League. I remember when I was at Morehead State, that's where I went to college. We were in the PFL as well. It was always Drake, San Diego, Dayton. Those were the 3 teams that you really had to look for. And another thing is a lot of these non-scholarship programs like Drake, you don't get to go on and play like an FBS school. It's your big out-of-conference game. You play at an FCS school that gives scholarships.
Yep.
So when I was at Morehead State, a couple years it was at Appalachian State, and that was a huge game for us. Drake going into the Potato Bowl.
Yep.
Against
the 50th
Potato Bowl against an FCS opponent that gives scholarships. You get up for those games.
Absolutely.
You've got something to prove. And Drake, look for them to do really well in the Pioneer League. that second half, Drake really came on fire.
They really did. And credit to UND for being able to hold them off. But I think this week they're going to have a lot more focus as we'll preview their opponent this weekend. UND fans may know who they are. But we'll preview that coming up in just a moment. Again, Keaton Studsworth, your Root Sports Offensive Player of the Week, and then your Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week. Safety in Northern Colorado, Taylor Reisner. I don't think a lot of people expected Northern Colorado to be 2-0 into the season, but they pick up a big 34-10 win over Houston Baptist. That's a good win over a Southland Conference team. Reisner with 16 tackles for loss. I mean, he was all over the field, Brad.
Really was, and that's what you want at the safety position, I feel like, anymore. You want a guy who's going to be guiding everybody, guiding his defensive backs, guiding his linebackers, really just a coach on the field, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Northern Colorado 2-0. Those were some of the highlight wins in the Big Sky Conference this weekend. Northern Arizona picked up a 41-5 win, over New Mexico Highlands out of the Division II Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. Those are some of the highlights from Big Sky football this weekend. Let's turn to what's happening now and what's going down this week, Jason, in Big Sky soccer that people need to know about.
Well, coming up this week, a couple games you really want to look for. Friday, the 18th at 3 p.m. right here in Ogden, Loyola Marymount's going to be visiting Weber State.
West Coast Conference.
West Coast Conference matchup. Loyola is usually a pretty good program. Weber State looking to kind of get some momentum going in as we round out the non-conference portion of the schedule. Montana will be at UC Santa Barbara, another really good soccer program. A little bit more known for their men's soccer there at UCSB, but their women's soccer is very strong. Montana was picked first in the Big Sky. They actually wound up second in the preseason poll because of first place votes. But Montana was our regular season champion last year. So another school looking to get a little bit of momentum. And then Idaho State at Wyoming on Friday. That game's going to be on the Mountain West Network. We've got a link to it and the Weber State game on our website. Idaho State, Maria Sanchez, who is their forward midfielder, played on the Mexican national team in the World Cup. She leads the conference in about 5 offensive categories right now. Idaho State is looking to get the entire team moving in the same direction Maria is moving. And this is a good opponent to do it against. The Mountain West opponent. Northern Colorado beat Wyoming 3-1 last night. So I think the Big Sky is about 2-0 or 3-0 against Wyoming. Hopefully Idaho State can pull out the win. And really, just rounding out this non-conference slate, a lot of these teams are teams that you're going to match up well against. We could see another big weekend.
We could. Brad, what's happening this weekend in volleyball and then cross country?
All right, so one thing I forgot to mention earlier. So volleyball, they played 7 ranked teams last weekend, only 2 sweeps. Wanted to mention that. It's kind of a good testament to the conference. Northern Arizona playing Arizona State. They take a set off them. Eastern Washington takes a set off of number 2 Florida, number 2 Hawaii. Idaho State takes BYU to 5 sets. Number 9 team in the country. Northern Colorado plays Kansas, takes a set off them. Kind of some of those matches you go into, you might not be expecting to win, but if you can get a set or 2 off of them, it's a good morale booster for
Build
those
some
programs.
confidence.
Yeah, especially that 5-set match down at BYU.
Oh
with
man,
Idaho
what a
State.
game!
That was very tight.
Very good. And then, so coming up in volleyball, Northern Colorado, Sacramento State, both hosting tournaments. Eastern Washington has their home opener playing Corbin. It's their last match before conference play starts next week, which I'm looking very forward to.
Yep.
I'm sure as everybody else is. But those are all those games will be on Watch Big Sky at Northern Colorado and Sacramento State, and look for Sacramento State to keep rolling as they're riding a 10-game winning streak.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Absolutely. Anything going on across country this weekend? Or?
The highlight to me for cross country, Montana State, Montana, they haven't competed yet this season. They'll be opening in Bozeman this weekend. Idaho State will be joining them over for the Bozeman Running Company invite. It should be Should be a good little clash between those three teams.
Yeah, it should be good. Make sure to stop at the combined ice cream / street taco cart that they have there. It's always a good time.
Maybe they'll hit it on their cool down.
Yeah, why not? Nothing like refueling with that. So let's turn to what's going to happen this weekend. First in Big Sky Golf, pretty much all the conference teams are going to be involved in tournaments of some kind over the next week, so we'll report some of those results next week. This weekend in Big Sky Football, we teased it earlier, but we want to throw it out there again. This weekend, Big Sky Football returns to Root Sports as well as DirecTV's Audience Network as Montana State and Eastern Washington do battle on what should be a great game offensively.
Yeah.
It was a 52-51 thriller last year. We'll see what happens this year in Cheney as the Bobcats and the Eagles battle on the red turf. That's a 1:05 Pacific Time kickoff, 2:05 Mountain Time. You'll find that on Root Sports as well as DirecTV's Audience Network. A couple other games, though, on TV this weekend that are big ones. ESPN3's got a couple big games, North Dakota and North Dakota State, that rivalry that we talked about. That should be a fun one for sure.
And this is a rivalry that hasn't happened in over a decade, if I'm correct.
Yep, 2003.
Yeah, 2003. Two teams that are very close together geographically.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a lot of green and yellow in that crowd. You're going to see a lot of green and white in that crowd. You know, good luck to UND. Obviously, we'll be pulling for you. Hopefully, get another win over the Bison from a Big Sky school.
Yeah, Montana beat them earlier this year. We'll see what UND does. I think UND is going to be ready to play. I don't know what's going to happen. We obviously don't do predictions on this show, but I think they're going to be ready to play. And I'm just going to say that right there. The other ESPN3 game is Montana at Liberty. This is a good game against a good Big South opponent that's been to the playoffs recently. Their head coach, Turner Gill, well known in the college football world. I'm excited to see what the Grizz do as they head down to Liberty for this game.
This is going to be a tough game for them. Liberty is a hard place to play.
Yep.
They pack out that stadium every week. Very good crowd support. Not an easy place to get to.
Yep.
Especially from
Missoula.
Montana, from Missoula, Montana.
Yep.
Sorry, Grizz fans. From Missoula, it's not easy to necessarily get to Lynchburg, Virginia from the rest of Virginia either. So I know. But this is going to be a good game. This is the kind of team that you could easily see in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be a good test for the Grizz.
Team with playoff aspirations.
And the Grizz are from Missoula. I know. I'm sorry.
Two teams with playoff aspirations, folks. They'll do battle in Virginia this Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern kickoff, that on ESPN3. Forgot about a Friday night game. We do have a Friday night special this week. Idaho State, losers to Portland State. They'll travel to face in-state rival Boise State of the Mountain West Conference. 7:05 kickoff on that game. That'll be available Friday night on CBS Sports Network. A few other games on Saturday I want to get to real quick. Let's start with our bevy of Watch Big Sky options. So there'll be 3 games that'll be shown this weekend for Big Sky football on WatchBigSky.com. The first is a conference game. Northern Colorado, we talked about it. They come in with a lot of momentum. They're 2-0, coming off that big victory over Houston Baptist. They'll go to Cedar City to face off against the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. Southern Utah, I think this week after hearing Ed Lamb talk on the Weekly Coaches podcast that you can find on BigSkyConf.com, he wants this team to find an identity quickly, especially defensively.
And both these teams are going to be looking to start the Big Sky portion of their schedule with a win. So the good news for the T-Birds, it's in Cedar City.
Yep.
They have home field advantage.
Absolutely. 6 p.m. Mountain Time, your kickoff on WatchBigSky.com. We've got another game. It's a non-conference game, but there should be a lot of drama surrounding this. Is Sac State coach Jody Sears returns to Weber State. He coached the Wildcats for a few years. That game will be at Stewart Stadium. It's also Weber State's homecoming. For fans in the greater Utah area, you'll be able to watch that game on KJAS 14. You'll also be able to watch it on WatchBigSky.com. And it'll be interesting to see how both teams deal with the emotions of that. You got homecoming. You got Coach Sears coming back to Weber. A lot of guys still on the roster. He recruited to play there. I'm excited to see how that one turns out.
You gotta love the non-conference format too. The fact that these coaches are scheduling these games, despite they're not on their conference schedule, they really respect each other, respect their programs. They really just want to clash out and have some good Sky football action.
Well, absolutely. We've already seen Montana Cal Poly this year was outstanding. I have no doubts that Montana State and Eastern Washington. Did I mention that you can watch that game on Root Sports, by the way, as well as DirecTV's Audience Network? If I didn't, you can watch it on Root Sports as well as DirecTV's Audience Network, but 105 Pacific Time kickoff. But, those non-conference matchups like you talk about, Brad, they're something to behold. And they're good games that are good for fans to watch.
Yeah. Montana State Eastern Washington's a good example. That was
Yeah.
not a conference game last year. It comes down to, it's back and forth all game. It comes down to a 2-point conversion after the Eastern scores a touchdown. I mean, nothing better than that.
Nothing better than that. Again,
Get your popcorn ready for that.
Hey-o. We'll see that this Saturday again, 6 o'clock Mountain Time kickoff on KJS 14 as well as WatchBigSky.com. Our last Watch Big Sky game. This is maybe the game with the most national implications of any of them this weekend. Northern Iowa, a top 10 team. They travel to San Luis Obispo to face off against Cal Poly, a top 20 team. Tough to prepare for that triple option, especially after facing that wide open Eagles attack.
Well, we saw, Cal Poly's come out like a house on fire.
Oh, yeah.
They go up and beat Montana. They play really well at Arizona State. I mean, to see, just to see how well they played against the Sun Devils was really
It's a
interesting.
good football team.
Yeah.
That's a good football team that Tim Walsh has going down there in San Luis Obispo. So it should be an exciting game. You can find that game. It's a 7 p.m. Pacific kickoff down in SoCal on, obviously, again, WatchBigSky.com, American Sports Network, as well as KSBY there locally in San Luis Obispo. A couple more games to mention. Northern Arizona at Arizona. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. You can find that game on the Pac-12 Network. In-state rivalry, but I'm interested to see how Northern Arizona executes. They've looked good in the first 2 weeks of the season. I want to see how they execute against an opponent that is also very, very good.
Yeah, and the amount of, they put up 41 points on New Mexico Highlands last week. Not a Division I school, but still, to go out there, get your offense clicking, now you know your reads, now you know what you're supposed to be doing out there. You've got that momentum, you've got that confidence. Take that down to Tucson, play well, execute. We know what Big Sky teams can do against Pac-12 opponents.
Yeah, we saw Portland State beat Wazoo a couple weekends ago. Maybe this is, and Cal Poly, again, played very well in Tempe at Sun Devil Stadium. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Then the final game, make sure to have something caffeinated to stay up for this one. UC Davis at Hawaii, kickoff 6 p.m. Hawaiian Aleutian Standard Time. That's HAST for those of you scoring at home. And it's going to be a late game. But again, I'm still looking for what UC Davis is. I want to see what their identity is as a football team.
Yeah, they're a little mysterious. We haven't really seen them have a game where they have fired on all cylinders yet. This could be an opponent that they could maybe do that against. I mean, you kind of hope that maybe Hawaii got a little beat up against the Buckeyes last week, and you can kind of shake off the jet lag as you travel out there to the islands. And I mean, that is a terrible, terrible place.
I mean, because there's and what a wonder. I mean, because there's so many daily direct flights too from Honolulu to Columbus.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of them. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rainbow Warriors are as they welcome in UC Davis again Saturday night, 6 p.m. Hawaiian Aleutian Standard Time on Oceanic Time Warner Cable.